have a quorum. Right. I don't have a gavel, but I can use my knuckles, so it's all right. That's all right. I'm not. All right. We ready, gentlemen? Call a meeting to order of the planning board, and we have 4 planning board members, so we have a quorum. And are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 2, is acceptance of the minutes from October 9th, 2025. And they are included in your packet.
I didn't see any discrepancies. I'll make a motion we accept.
Second.
Moved by Dave, second by Steve to accept the minutes. Discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Eric?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Minutes are accepted. Item 3 is unfinished business. First item under that category is the Fort Street Bridge.
So-
Any updates, Mr. Samuelson?
Yes, so it sounds like Maine DOT is willing to have a virtual meeting towards the end of the year with the city, and then one in person at the start of 2026. And as we find out dates for that, we're going to be publicizing that and having a separate tab on the website for it. So be on the lookout for that. We'll probably also do a mailer to residents, especially those affected on the other side of the river. So be on the lookout for that. We've also, I don't remember if I had mentioned this last time, but we spoke with municipal staff members of communities who went through something similar, where there was a substantial detour down in Kennebunk, as well as, I think it was Randolph, in the Randolph-Hallowell Bridge or Randolph-West Gardner Bridge. So they were able to give us some helpful insights, and we'll be working with them to kind of see what their experience was, coming up with potential costs for police, fire, schools, the buses that are going to have to go 22 miles around each way. So it's going to be a big effort, and as soon as we have dates to meet with DOT, we'll be sure to let you folks know.
So this has happened before, and the compromise was to have a plan, huh?
Yes, I know other communities have been able to do alternating closures. It sounds like the department, with the bridge being so high and historic, it's more cost effective to do a full closure. So we're going to be working with them to kind of see how they came to that conclusion, and what the costs are going to be to the city, because that's no small impact.
So is that what they gave for a reason? Was that the cost of doing 1 lane versus 2 lanes?
I believe so. I wasn't directly involved in those conversations, but they considered a couple alternatives, and apparently the one that they came to a conclusion on was full closure being the easiest course of action. So we're going to update them with what we're going to experience and our detours, and it sounds like we might be able to work with them on that. But again, we haven't really heard much from them other than they're going to throw out some dates for a meeting in December and then early 2026. So when we know those dates, we'll publicize those immediately and get those out all over our website, social media, mailers, because this is a big deal for the community, as you're all aware.
Yeah.
Yep.
All I could say is, what I have to add is, the question would, for me to be was, okay, if they're gonna do this, you know, have they obviously haven't calculated how much it's gonna cost us. But if we could give them a number, see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
And have, because we could say, okay, go to the fire chief, police chief, school department, especially the busing,
And public works too.
and Public Works,
Yep.
snow plow. I believe they could probably generate a number
Yep.
fairly quickly.
Yep.
You know, obviously, not exact, but
Yep.
and it'd be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And that's
And how are we going to get compensated for that? Because I don't believe there's a plan for that on the compensation part.
Yep. DOT.
It's just my spidey sense. But
They made it sound like there will be options for that if we can get them an estimate. So we are
okay, well,
we are going to
that's
come up with that and see.
cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. That's the information that we have, and we're sticking to it.
Well, good, I'm glad it's being addressed in the city's,
I think that's the best we can
Pursuing
do,
it,
probably.
yeah.
Got to give them a number.
Yep.
We may not win the way that we want to win, but
Yeah.
at least if the municipal services could be compensated,
Yep.
I'd feel a little bit better about it. You know, that's all I have to add.
Yep.
It's a very
Any-
good point.
Any other comments from board members? Hearing none, we'll move to item B, updates on new planning board member nominations.
I don't have any. I have kept this as a standing agenda item in
Yeah,
case the
sure.
board has talked with anybody. I haven't heard from Karen's son,
Son.
but if the board is okay with it, I would just leave this as a standing item in case
Sure.
anything comes up.
So we have openings for 3?
As a point of order, can they be nominated before the new term of business in January at any time, or do we have to wait till the new term? If they're fill-ins, can they be appointed at any time?
I believe so, because they'd be filling the vacancies
Right, that's what I'm
left.
understanding. They'd be filling in the last term.
Right.
That's my understanding.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to wait. Well, as a matter of practicality, it might be January by the time, because it's November, but
Right.
I was just asking as a.
So,
Point of order.
does anybody know of the board members sitting here? Do any of our terms end this year?
I don't.
I think mine's up next year, because I think I was a
I don't know,
3-year
yeah.
term.
I've got 2 more years on this 3-year term.
So I probably got one more beyond this, because I believe I was reappointed in 2024. So, be 24, 25, 26, I believe.
Okay.
Penny would probably have that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was on the website, but it's not.
Might be worth
Yeah, I can
noting.
I can find out what those terms are.
Because if we have a lapse of anybody, we're going to be up against
Right,
it.
yeah, I could be 1 year off, but
Okay. That concludes unfinished business. Under new business, we have item A, review options for potential property maintenance ordinance. Mr. Sanderson?
Yes, so I'll really would kick this over to Dave, but Dave had made me aware of some really good work that the city of Bangor has done. And as you guys know, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel to have good ordinances and good practices. So we wanted to get this in front of the board for a first look to kind of see your thoughts on it for abandoned and vacant properties and Bangor's permitting process for this. I think obviously there'd be staffing is always a
Difference, huh?
yeah, yep. But if we want to work on language or work on this in conjunction with other boards and committees as the council might consider, whether it's a land bank or
So
other issues.
some elements of this we have.
We do have a property maintenance ordinance currently, but this is much more comprehensive than what we have. Talks about making sure everything's weatherized, kept at a certain temperature. I'll let Dave speak to any other items he feel might be important for it.
They stress a lot on boarding up windows and making sure that doors don't get kicked in. You know, like you slap a piece of plywood and screw it so that they don't kick a door in. They have found that by instituting the policy on abandoned, vacant buildings, it's cut down on a lot of the break-ins. It's also open by having a data bank. It's allowed developers to go in and make an offer on a building that's been going downhill, and they rehab them. So they've had good luck with that as a result of having this infrastructure built in. And I think that would benefit us as well. It's quite deep. We don't have to be quite that, well, number one, we don't have the staff. So we have to make sure that it's manageable, whatever we write in is manageable, so we don't get overwhelmed with the details. But according to Orono, Old Town, this is the gold standard that everybody picks from. And for what it's worth, I think they have code enforcement in Bangor has a staff of 11 or 12. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
they can adhere to their rules and regs very efficiently. So we printed this out for you to peruse and pick and choose what we think would benefit our community, given the circumstances that we have to work with.
I think when I went through it, the differences that I identified, the vacant building section, our property maintenance really doesn't address anything along that line. And the idea of having a registry of buildings that are intentionally vacant. When I thought through that and reading the section on the snowbirds, I think this said vacant for a term of 60 days. And I know we have people from Caribou that disappear in the winter. They head to Florida for three, maybe 4 months. I noticed this because all of a sudden in the spring I start seeing Cadillacs. and I know that's the snowbirds that have come back for the summer. But you know, as the mention of we don't have the staff to do this, it's always been kind of a pick and choose how we approached all the things that we didn't have time to do. And in our property maintenance code that we have now, any holes in a building that's an access point for rodents. So if squirrels, raccoons, all kinds of animals can get into buildings if the buildings aren't maintained. And absentee owners, a lot of times they just don't care.
Right.
And you can't track them down, and nothing gets done short of getting in front of a judge. So the city's got to have that in mind too. It's one thing to identify the problems, but the city council has to be willing to put the money up front to pay for the city attorney to actually go to the court and have the judge rule on these things. So it's one thing to have an ordinance. It's another thing to actually enforce the ordinance.
Right.
And I think that's the problem that Caribou's going to have with this, to actually enforce it.
Well, to add to your conversation, the snowbird thing came up in Bangor because they have a fair amount of people that head south as well. By having the ordinance, it compels the snowbird to give Eric a call and say, Eric, I'm leaving on January 1st. I'll be back March 31st. It's documented, and with the documentation, Bangor's been waiving the snowbird rules and regs, because they go out of their way to inform their code enforcement office that the building is not vacant, it's heated, I'm coming back. It's being watched, it's being monitored electronically or by design.
Yeah,
So it just makes people a little bit more responsible,
yeah.
because there's an equal amount that aren't, and it's the ones that seem to annoy me the most is the foreclosures. One that comes to mind is Mr. Cooper out of California. It's like Fannie Mae. But they do nothing to the building. Once in a blue moon, they'll call a maintenance company, because I did meet somebody that was plowing a driveway one time, and I said, he says, yeah, I got contacted to plow the driveway once a month. I said, okay. And it happened to be a Fannie Mae thing or other, but
Yeah, a building that's in foreclosure here is just one building out of thousands of buildings. So if there's a $175,000 foreclosure here, these companies in California are also looking at the multi-million-dollar properties that are in foreclosure. So these are the end of the list.
I thought maybe by letting them stay vacant for in excess of 3 years, there was some tax write-off that they were taking advantage of to let a building go untouched for 3 years. And I tried to get a legal opinion
Well,
on that.
we can keep our taxes elevated, even on an empty, deteriorating building. That's an incentive to the owners to actually maintain their building.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So I don't know.
So that being said, I don't
So
know.
we don't register vacant buildings here,
We do not at present.
right?
I think it'd be, just my opinion, pretty hard to do without a lot of staff.
Right.
I mean, we can notify everybody. It's easy enough to put a little notification that goes out every summer in the tax bill. So we can always communicate with the whole public, you know, people reluctant to hear a notification on television or the local radio stations, people that don't follow the city's website. Everybody that gets a tax bill can have a little notification in it. So that's one way to always communicate. But like Eric says, if we don't have the staff to actually follow through with this, it's just creating more legislation that nobody complies with.
But there's a benefit too that we seem to be forgetting. If the house is in relatively good shape and it gets broken into now, and let's say that it gets vandalized, neighbors notify the fire and police departments that there's some action going on in a vacant house or an abandoned house. The incentive to the former owner would be to have a point of contact that's fairly current, so that the issues could be addressed.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to this, the city knows who all of the owners are from the tax records.
But are they updated? Probably not.
I don't know how you're gonna do
Annually, I
that,
would
though. You know, vacant versus abandoned for months at a time, that's pretty subjective,
It
right?
gets to the point, who cares?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Somebody goes to Florida, they're there for December to February, their house gets broken into, like you just said. But the house isn't abandoned, and it's not really vacant. They went on vacation.
But it'd be nice to have a point of contact. So
But it's on their tax bill.
I think what we failed.
I'm
I know what you're saying, A lot of these houses wind up the way they are because the mom and dad died. It's been left to the kids, and the kids do not live in the area.
I know, but that's, how are you gonna research all that?
I know.
Well, having a phone and email address that's more current than an address.
Well, no,
that's
I get
30
that,
away.
but I mean, unless that's a requirement of all the tax properties in the entire city, short of that, how you gonna do it? I'm just looking at a practical point of view.
You are.
Anyone can go into the city's database with the property address or an owner's name to find out. Dave Corvo owns 6 properties, and they're located at these 6 different locations. Or you could go to the location that's having an issue, and it'll tell you that Dave Corvo owns the property. So it's just a matter of pushing a few keystrokes.
And I don't know if at the October meeting I had this conversation yet, but the Economic Growth Council at their last meeting, they talked about getting someone who has a business in property maintenance, and we have had someone reach out asking about doing business with the city, and he does lawn mowing, he fixes windows and roofs, and he's given us estimates, and I mean, it's really just a matter of having a funding source. So even having an ordinance like this to have at least a little bit to mow someone's lawn while, if it gets overgrown after a period of 3 months or 6 months or whatever it might be, could make that extra little bit of difference in each of these different spots in town.
At least pacify the neighbors on each side, right?
Yeah, but is that on the taxpayers? I mean, here again, it's that homeowner's responsibility. I don't want to put any more burden on the taxpayer.
I don't think you are.
Well, you mow it and then you send them
Well,
the bill, but collecting it's another thing.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
Because we got to pay up front,
Right.
obviously, or that contractor's not going to come back.
Right.
I agree that it's a good idea.
Yep.
I'm just,
There's a lot of detail and thought that needs to go into it, but
I think I read in here that if we were to charge a nominal fee, let's say $35 to register your house, those monies would be used to pay for the property maintenance. So it's not coming out of the general fund.
right,
per
but
se.
I'd want to know what kind of non-compliance we're going to get. And I believe it'd be high non-compliance. Just from my,
As far as registering, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah, what's the incentive to register?
Right, and so, and Steve can attest to this, we both worked in, land use regulation for a lot of years. Compliance rates are not good in land use regulation.
Yeah.
There's just not an incentive there. I mean, I'm not trying to be devil's advocate, I am being devil's advocate, but I'm just saying, I think you're going to be shocked at how futile that some of these endeavors are going to be. And I only say that based on experience. I mean, you'd have to talk to Presque Isle and see how they're doing on registering all their apartment buildings in all the apartments in town. That was their mandate, correct? What was it, 5 years ago, roughly? After some fire issues.
And fire was the factor.
That was the main driver of it.
And in Bangor, there was a vacant building. I believe homeless
Yep.
had moved into it. The place burnt, people died. And Bangor got serious about it after that occurrence.
Right, I mean, if there's a way we could establish what kind of compliance we're gonna get before we do it, and have some metric to go by, I can understand it, but to just say, hey, we're gonna go do this, but kind of blind. Because just based on my experience with land use, you know, people are not forthcoming to,
Go out of their way.
they're not going to go to they're like, I'm going to go do what I'm going to do. I don't care about the town, the county, the government, whatever. It's none of their business, right? That's generally how people think.
I think shady owners will go out of their way to not comply. It's like they work at it. You know, you almost have to trick them into.
Well, and they're absentee a lot of times, right?
If there was a way
Yeah.
to tie it in with like vehicle registration, when someone comes in every year, like asking, oh, will you also have a vacant property for 3 or more months during the year, the next 12 months? Having like the physical check-in when people come in.
It would be ideal if you could.
Yeah.
I just don't know how successful it's going to be.
Would the board want me to have Bangor potentially come to an upcoming meeting, whether it's December or January, to kind of speak about their experience? And then I could also reach out to Tim St. Peter and Presque Isle as well, and kind of see what their experience with the apartments has been, and see if they'd speak to the group.
I think it goes back to having the staff.
So does Presque Isle have a vacant building ordinance or policy?
I don't know.
Do you know?
They do have that apartment ordinance, though.
Right.
And that's primarily driven by fire and EMS issues. And and I believe that it requires registration of every building in the city
It's in the
that's an
tax-
apartment.
In the tax basis as multi-units.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
every multi-unit or duplex, it's right
Right,
on the. right
and
on the
even
tax
down to
card.
the duplex level.
Yeah.
Yes.
But not on a single family that's being rented. They're not tracked in the system.
No, single family, but definitely the ones that are multi-unit / duplexes. Believe that's
Yeah.
which you got to draw the line somewhere, right?
So how did that help them with fire?
Well, they were having it, and Steve can probably answer this better than I can, but my recollection is they had a lot of deficient apartment buildings in town where there was people living and they did not meet code. And there was issues, I'm not even how some of those fires started, whether it was infrastructure related, whether it was bad chimneys or whatever. But that was how it was alleged.
So they required that they could get registered, and then they had the staff to go and examine them to make sure they're up to code?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the incentive of registering if you know you're going to get scrutinized?
Well, you'd already be registered coming from the tax base.
Oh, okay.
So the tax cards that list the property as a 3-unit or duplex,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, there's a list of the rental properties.
So you know,
So then, that's when an inspector, on whatever frequency,
yeah,
every third year possibly, or whatever,
Right.
but it comes up on a database that says, this is the month that I need to inspect these 15 properties.
And
Yeah.
part of it too was they wanted to know how many people were living in each unit. Because if they had to go there in the middle of the night, they want to know, are they looking for one person or are they looking for 3?
yeah.
Because that came up.
Yeah.
And this is my recollection, this was years ago now, but it was their way to try to, because they had some fatalities.
It boils down to safety, but there's an expense that goes along with having
right.
safe buildings.
And it wasn't, it was a difficult, as I recall, it was a difficult thing to get.
Yeah, there was one in Portland a few years back that points of egress had been blocked, so that people in the apartments could not get out. The main stairwells that they typically would come and go were on fire, and the second means of egress out and down had been blocked off. People died in the fire. And again, it's like, it boils down to staff. Do you have the staff, the personnel to actually do the follow-ups and do the inspections? That's money.
Well, the other issue is, okay, if we pass an ordinance like that, and we're supposed to be inspecting all this, and there is a fatality, who's responsible? Does the city have liability on that? If we have an ordinance on the books, but we're not following the ordinance, now ultimately, the responsibility is on the landowner. That's generally how things work. However, you see where I'm going with this. If we enact an ordinance and we say, we're gonna do X, but we don't have the staff,
We don't
nor the
know.
means,
Yep.
but all this takes place, do we have, do we have a liability in that? I mean, that'd be the big thing I'd wanna know about. I mean,
That would
I
end
know-
up as a court case. You'd end up in court.
I mean, Steve's because Steve was an acting code enforcement officer for a lot of years, he's more in tune in this kind of stuff, but I bring it up because my previous experience in this kind of stuff, those were kind of gray areas with a lot of towns, you go you want to go do this. Oh, you're going to go do this. Well, then this happens, but you had no,
Yeah.
I don't know, just,
We had.
I think you
we
see
had
where I'm
one
going with this.
In Portland, an apartment house that had recently been inspected. So top to bottom, all the apartments. Second floor apartment, I want to say it was a 6-year-old, had been jumping up and down on the living room couch, bouncing on the couch and went out through the window. And the case ended up in court being that the parents, and I believe the child died, but the parents were suing the city, being that the city had inspected the apartment house. Being that they were saying that the inspector that had been there should have checked the security or the strength of the screens on the window, as though that was intended to keep children from falling out. It was the city won out, so it was the lawsuit didn't pass in court.
But how much did it cost the city?
Thousands.
Yeah.
Just the.
That's my point.
The defense of the city and the inspector that had done the fire safety inspection, but it can go sour.
No, I still think we need a little bit of,
I think
Data.
things need to be done, but we need to be careful.
very, very much so.
I'm happy to provide a memo for upcoming meetings on some of these issues we talk about, with whether it be liability, enforcement and staffing, kind of what other communities have done. I can reach out to each of these towns and cities and kind of see what they've experienced, and ask if they might want to come speak to the board if that's of interest. But I'm happy to put together a memo on some of these different items that the city might want to consider if we end up starting down this road. I think another question is going to be, does the board want to recommend that the city repeal, or not repeal, either add to the existing Article 3 property maintenance code in the charter, or make this a separate sort of ordinance? So that's going to be something to keep in the back of your minds as well, if this ends up moving forward.
We can keep our property maintenance code and add this into the ordinance. So the vacant building section, because we do have a section in the ordinance on property maintenance, I believe.
I think it'd be the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, just add it in.
Yep.
But again, it goes back to personnel.
Yeah.
That's, I think, Eric, that's the big problem that Caribou is experiencing
Yeah.
for so much of these discussions. We don't have a code officer.
Yep.
And,
Whether it's code, whether it's PD, whether it's,
yeah,
Health and safety, whatever, if you have an ordinance on the books that requires the city or best attempt at the city level to do X, and they can't, like just what Steve said, somebody will find a loophole.
Make it subject to inspection. Doesn't say you're gonna do it.
Well, and that's where your legwork on what the other ordinances say or don't say in their experiences, because,
We can play with this, so we're no
Yeah.
big.
no, I mean, but
Oh, yeah.
it,
This will be a long-term
Yes.
effort
Yeah.
Yeah.
if it goes forward, but I think just getting this in front of the board tonight, I mean, kudos to Dave for being a champion for that, and I know the city council is very focused on plight as well, so we have a lot of good folks with the city and on our different boards and committees.
And we do have a portion of this that's applicable now. When you think of the Section 8 housing program, annually, they're inspecting every rental unit that's in the Section 8 program. Smoke detectors, electrical outlets, ingress and egress, all of those things that this would address are being done currently.
By whom?
The Section 8 office, Lisa.
Really?
right, but there's funding for that.
Well, HUD.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Federal funding.
But again, it's a program that's been in effect that works. And the city of Caribou could just, Lisa, what do we need to do to implement this program so that it applies to everyone, even not part of the Section 8 housing program? So it's,
It's a thought.
No, there's a benchmark there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can talk to her as well. And to your point, it's going to take time to get people used to it, and in the long term, I think compliance rates would probably improve, whether they get.
They're
to a
always
point
going to
that's worth it,
improve.
but-
I'm not saying they're,
Oh, yeah, no,
but
I get it.
to my, no, you understand my
Yep,
point.
Of course. But I think that's a great point.
Okay. Well, thank you for bringing this forward, and looks like we'd be interested in more information.
Do you think, Mr. Chair, that if we read through this very carefully and pick and choose what may be applicable for Caribou, we can put a rough draft of some sort that we can discuss at our next meeting?
Why don't we continue to have it as an agenda item and continue the conversation next time,
That works.
with the goal of seeing if there's elements of the Bangor model that might
Okay.
be applicable and doable. All right, thank you all. Let's move to item B, Chapter 13 zoning ordinance kennel requirements. And it has some sub-items there as well.
Yep. These are our existing ordinance relating to commercial kennels, as well as definitions and standards for those. I also included our existing Chapter 3 animal and fowl ordinance. And
So is this an issue that's currently been raised,
Yes.
kennels?
Not so much a kennel. An example would be, okay, I got a Siberian Husky. I leave him in the backyard. He's chained. He's got a 20-foot chain, and he's there all darn day while I put in a 12-hour shift. My neighbor, this is an example. My neighbor gives me a call and says, I saw your dog, and your dog is shivering because it's sleeting, and your dog doesn't look well. Right now, I can tell my neighbor to mind her own gosh darn business, and that's end of the story. The point is that I think there needs to be some tweaking in our ordinance so that that neighbor has a legitimate complaint, I could get my hand slapped somehow or be a better dog owner. If, I don't see anything that penalizes me as a loser dog parent to mend my ways. And I have spoken to our chief. There have been some complaints, but he's got no ground to stand on.
Do we have an animal control officer?
We do.
Because they have their own set of rules and laws and guidelines that they function under.
I do not know if that's,
Yeah, there's all kinds of state law and,
In my conversations with the PD, they've sort of kind of taken on that role, and they rely on a agency of the state to deal with that does inspections and things of that nature. So in speaking with them, whether they would be in favor or opposed to any changes to any of this language, they said they're all for it to give them more control locally. When I spoke with them about any possible changes, they noted having that local control is always a good thing, and they're happy to work with the board. But I know the state also does inspection services. So right now, what is applied to these properties is what's on the last page of your packet, page 27, from the MRS outdoor standards.
So pages 20 to 26, that's our current regulations. Is that right? Chapter 13,
Yes.
all the way down through?
Yep, 13, and then I also included Chapter 3 outside of the zoning ordinance for
Right.
animal and fowl.
So nowhere in those pages does it talk about what Dave's talking about.
We do have a definition of kennels that,
that's misleading,
yes,
very misleading.
and those do exclude commercial racing animals at this point. So I think that's one thing to look at if the board wants to go with a local enforcement route. But at the state level, the standards on page 27 of your packet are the ones that they apply for outdoor standards. Artificial shelter, minimum 3 sides with waterproof roof.
So this is a law that was passed at some point? Doesn't have a date. Or down the bottom.
123rd legislature? I don't know
Whenever
when
that
would
is.
have been.
that's recent.
And the strike-throughs and the underlining, who's made those?
That was from Chief Saucier at the PD, kind of highlighting which section, highlighting the section. Oh, the strike-throughs.
Yeah, the strike-throughs and the inserted words, is that somebody's work to
I suppose this may have just been a
working?
working
and
copy,
paste.
but I did go to the actual section, and it reads exactly what was proposed, I guess, at this time, which 123rd says 2007.
So when you went to that language,
Yep.
was it the original language or was it the edited language?
It was the edited language.
Okay.
Oops.
And I think for the state to be involved, they're coming from Augusta. So 270 miles
That ain't gonna happen.
for a state animal control officer to come to Caribou.
There is one person they have assigned. I don't know if it's a northern.
Yeah,
region
they
or if
have
it's a Rustic County
personnel up there.
specific.
Out of Bangor, maybe.
But it's
yeah.
at least one, if not two, I think they have for northern Maine.
But if these outdoor standards were folded into our ordinance, would it give the PD
A little bit more teeth.
Well, the PD can enforce any of the state laws. or an animal control officer can enforce the state statute as well as local ordinance.
Without it being part of our
Yes,
code.
yeah.
So there's a law, David,
Hmm?
apparently that. And down at the bottom is the dog confined by tethering for a long period of time was your example, I think.
At the bottom of page 20 of the packet, there is language from the definition section on, I know Dave, you said that it's kind of like fitting a square peg into a round hole. It doesn't exactly fit, but what we have is for the kennels, they have animal shelters, boarding kennel, breeding kennel, rescue group, and then at the very bottom, all buildings and structures used as kennels, shelters, boarding kennels, breeding kennels, rescue groups shall comply with A through G.
Yeah.
And those have some standards, and I think,
But Dave's not talking about a kennel. He's talking about
right,
the owner of a pet.
and it sounded like some of the concern might have also been where there's a large group of animals as well. But you're also thinking for individual, singular
Could
as
be.
well.
Yeah, because talking to the chief, they do get occasional complaints of
Yeah.
issues like I just told you with my Siberian Husky, and I just picked that out of the blue.
Yep.
I'm not picking on anybody or anybody's dog or any special breed, I just,
That would be a tougher nut to crack for the individual ones without us having any sort of definition at this point that I'm aware
I
of.
think we're looking for a little bit of human kindness, you know?
Yeah.
Pretty hard to regulate, Dave.
I know, it's subjective.
It is National Kindness Day, I think, today, I heard.
Oh,
That's-
hence, that's
yeah,
why it's on our
That's
why I-
agenda
That's
tonight.
why I've been acting like this.
Yeah.
People have been nice to you today. Says, a metal barrel is not adequate shelter for a dog. Well, that's good.
And in the state law, having an artificial shelter with 3 sides and a waterproof roof, if you rig up a tarp, does that, like, it's pretty
Pretty subjective.
subjective. So, something to consider.
Well, appropriate to the local climatic conditions. And the breed of the animal makes a difference too, David.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you like to do? To share this with the chief? Fold it into our guidance? But it's already the law, so we really don't need to.
It's already state law, isn't it?
Right. That's my understanding.
I included this on the agenda to kind of start the conversation if we might want to invite the chief to future meetings to kind of hear their side of the story, or if we could get the name of the person who does the state work. I'm happy to make that connection.
Maybe our animal control officer. Let's see if he's still on the books.
Well, I bet they're using all of the patrol officers. You know, if they get a complaint, whoever's out on patrol probably ends up being sent to the property to go see, you know, to check on, is it a violation or whatever. We used to have a dedicated animal control officer,
Right.
but I don't think we have that now.
I haven't heard it mentioned in quite a
Okay.
few years.
Result of tightening the belt, I think.
Money.
Yep.
Always.
But it seems that the PD's been, I won't say jubilant, but definitely happy to
Filling the role.
fill in the role, and it sounds like
Yeah.
it hasn't been too much of a nuisance, especially with the state. And they're definitely open to enforcing any regulations that are on the books.
I wonder if somehow raising awareness of the expectations for having a pet and having a shelter might be a proactive way to pursue rather than go after enforcement. And I'm not sure how to do such a thing, but
And do it in the form of guidelines, maybe? But that's a good option. It's a good start.
I mean, you could even, I could even envision, WAGM reporter picking up on this as a story. And, it's a timely kind of thing with the cold weather and the need to, interview a veterinarian person and interview some people that are dog owners. How do they work shift work? And
Years ago, there was a case in Presque Isle that they took the animals away from the bad owner.
Right.
Somewhere, I think it was on the road between Presque Isle and Easton, if my memory is.
No, the state has the authority to do that.
yeah,
They
well, I'm
can
not
take
talking
large,
about,
they can take large animals too.
I'm not talking about highlighting a bad owner. I'm
but-
highlighting, let's be educational and informational and raise awareness of the importance of taking care of your pet in this climate.
Right.
And
And
there's
the
a
state
law
already has-
there is a law that has some guidance about
Exactly.
three-sided shelters and stuff.
You don't have to worry about quoting the law, but the state already has the ability to come into a situation if it's bad, and they seize those animals. They do it every day. But at the local level, if we don't have a designated, dog catcher, the police are deputized basically to do that work. I guess you could see where they're at, like how much workload is that? I mean, I don't know.
That's a good point.
And there's always
In a
gonna
given
be-
week, how many hours a week do they spend doing that?
There's always going to be people that should not be pet owners. They're just
Goes without
they're just
saying.
not wired right.
Goes without saying.
Okay.
Is it of interest of the board to ask if Chief Saucier or any of his staff members would want to come to a future meeting to kind of speak to what they see, to Eric's point with the hours and?
I think that's a good start.
That, or we could get it in writing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they gotta be here, but we just get a,
Yeah, how much of
Just an email.
How much of an issue are we confronted
an
with?
email would be fine. You don't need to take up everybody's time, but if it's not that big of an issue, then it's kind of case by case, then, okay, it's case by case, but is it 6
Well-
hours a week, or what, I don't know.
It's like finding out how many of the counselors have pets. They would have an interest in
Well,
enhancing this, I would think, as compared to
Well,
others that are not pet people.
it would be nice to have a case where an officer mentions the deplorable conditions that he found this pet in and what became of the situation.
My experience in that, because I work for the Department of Agriculture, is the hoarding situations, Department of Human Services, Child Protective Services, they're all there the same day. I can save everybody a lot of time. The same people that are hoarding animals have problems with their kids and are living in deplorable conditions. And it's a health and safety thing. It's the same people.
I remember
I'm just telling you.
we had one here in town. I want to say it was the fellow living in a mobile home had 28 cats living in the mobile home. And you can't imagine the filth conditions of the mobile home.
To my point, that's,
And
it's
this
all
was
related.
In Caribou.
All
Oh,
related.
yeah,
Well, it's
Wow.
it's every town.
yeah.
It's every town.
But
the whole trailer. would
It
have
only
to-
really
had to be
gets
one big
attention if
litter
it's in the
box.
middle of town where a neighbor can smell it.
Life at the beach.
Think about it.
tell you now.
It's out in the country. You drive by that place, you don't know. If it doesn't have any close neighbors,
Could be from a agricultural farming smell, could be anything.
yeah.
But I'm happy to get that information from the PD
Okay.
and get it to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on
Thank
this
you, Dave.
item? Very interesting. All right, so that takes us all the way down to item 5, City Council Liaison. And Mr. Bagley's not here this evening, so I assume we don't have any communication. Item 6 is staff report. Eric, do you have any information to share with us?
No, I don't really have much.
You shared with me a little bit before the meeting personally about the Riverside.
Yep.
So the board, I think, might be interested in that if they
Yeah.
weren't able to attend.
Yeah, the Riverfront Master Plan had its first public hearing on Thursday night at the rec center. It was originally supposed to be at the train station, but there was an issue there, so we had to move it. That issue's now been rectified, so it's all good now. But we had a good turnout. It was about 25 or 30 people.
Oh, nice.
The discussion lasted about 2 hours. There were 4 tables with maps, and people put stickers on and drawings. So it was a really powerful and collaborative process that I think is going to result in a good starting point for a good plan. We'll certainly keep the board and the residents appraised of any future meetings and efforts. And similar to that, there's also a housing needs assessment public meeting on Tuesday night at 5 o'clock here in council chambers.
This coming Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Yep.
with Matrix?
Yep.
They're up here?
Yep. They will be flying into town.
Who's that, David?
Matrix. It would be the one that the council authorized to do the housing study for Caribou.
They're consultants. They have offices in Arizona, Florida. I think they were going to be in DC for something. So they do work all over and have a really good experience with these housing plans. So kind of starting that process simultaneously with the Riverfront Master Plan has been really good.
So is there consultants hired to develop the plan for the Riverside?
Yep, that one is Razor Landscape Architecture based out of Yarmouth. I would note both projects were grant funded, so
Yeah.
those are being paid for with grant funds.
And so did they facilitate that meeting?
Yep.
At the Riverside?
Yep,
Yeah.
they had 2 of them that came up and made presentations. They got drone shots earlier in the day. They came up in the afternoon and got shots of above the diesel plant and the steam plant, all along the train station, and they had their pictures of it in the presentation. It was pretty incredible what the technology and the resources they have.
Nice.
And they've worked with other communities on riverfronts and riverfront master plans or even open space plans across Maine. So they're a good group.
Is there going to be another meeting, or is that the community input?
Yep. So there will be future meetings. I think their contract has 3 in-person meetings, so there will be another one as they develop the plan a little bit further towards the 40 or 50%, or maybe it's 30% phase. But they'll be presenting on their progress at each Riverfront Master Plan, each Riverfront Redevelopment Committee meeting, which meets on Tuesday nights typically. So they'll be presenting at each one if you guys are interested in how that's going, and we'll be posting on the website, on social media, sending out mailers to get as much engagement as we can. So it's an exciting project.
So you mentioned the steam plant and the diesel plant.
Mhm.
What's the status of their demolitions?
Yep. The diesel plant, we met to review the responses on November 5th when they were due last week, and we'll be making a recommendation to the City Council on Monday night. We met with our qualified environmental professional, Michelle Hersey of County Environmental, the Utility District, Penny, me, Public Works. It was an entire group of folks that reviewed the proposals that came in, and we expect that to be awarded on Monday night, but that's a recommendation.
Proposal to dismantle the diesel plant?
Yep, it'll be abatement of the contamination and demolition work. Yep. And the steam plant, that is a much bigger job, obviously, so they've gotten all the asbestos out of the places that can be reached immediately, and that is ongoing as well. And I'd also note that Bird's Eye will be having a public hearing for comment on the analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives document, or ABCA. So people can comment on that through December 17th.
So the steam plant, the company that was here doing the abatement, they've completed their contract, their work?
Yep. And a lot of the folks who did that work also applied for demolition. So we had, I think it was about 13 firms that attended the site walk. So there's a lot of interest in this project. A lot of good experienced folks that we've had interested working here in Caribou. So it's been good
The
so
steam
far.
plant?
Yes. So sorry, sometimes I get the starch plant and steam plant mixed up, but the steam plant,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, so the site walk was for the diesel plant.
Okay,
But,
That's
sorry.
yeah.
But
So
that's
we're a ways away from
Demo.
demo of the steam plant.
Yes, we still have to get under contract for someone. We just hired awarded a contract to an engineer to kind of assist with that, but actually bringing on a GC, I think, will be the next steps, working with the engineer that was hired.
So there's still funds to support this project?
Yep, the city has a grant through the EPA brownfields programs. I believe it's $900,000 for the diesel plant and $3 million or $4 million for the steam plant. So they're pretty substantial brownfields projects, and all credit to our city leadership and board members and Penny and Karen for bringing that money in. I had nothing to do with it. I've just kind of been writing RFPs and facilitating things, but always like to give credit where credit's due.
I'll give you credit for having your arms around it because it's confusing. But, you mentioned that they abated all they could get at.
Mhm.
What do you mean by that?
Anything that was within reach with any of the standing or walking areas in the building. We went in there for one of the RFPs that went out for the engineering consultant, and basically anything that's within arm's reach that could be tracked out or brought out by anybody who illegally goes in there was taken care of as an immediate safety measure. EPA, I think, mandated that, so they did their whole work, and it's called a CERCLA. I don't know what that acronym exactly stands for, but they basically had to clean out the whole site and make it relatively safe. But there's still some material way up on the ceilings and
Okay.
on the hard-to-reach places.
So the demolition of that building will include more abatement?
I believe so. They actually had to repair the roof, ironically, because there was an airflow issue that allowed a lot of that material to drop down and then become reachable.
Oh,
So
wow.
they repaired the roof just to abate it and then demolish the building. So the beauties of federal government.
Yeah. Take a step forward, step backwards.
We talked about a housing survey and the riverfront collaborators.
Yep.
It's my understanding that in order to get grant funding in the future for a possible housing unit, you've got to have that survey, don't you? It's almost mandatory, is my understanding.
I'm not sure specifically, but I know it would be incredibly helpful to have, especially with these planning documents where you'll have an assessment is the first part of the plan, and then an action plan that says, consider these steps, these funding sources, these programs. Having that approved and adopted by a municipal body, whether it's the city council or otherwise, is huge when you're applying for really anything, in my experience.
So
Yep.
we're not spinning our wheels needlessly.
No, all these plans are going to lead to a lot of different initiatives and incentives, and what the Riverfront Redevelopment Committee has emphasized, and we talked about at the meeting on Thursday night, getting the city and these different areas to a place where they can draw that private investment. And there might be opportunities for public-private partnerships. Those are obviously very important, but being able to incentivize private investment into our community to get those spaces to become a place where people want to go and people want to visit because it's really beautiful down by the river, and Caribou has so much to offer. Between our 2 DOT studies, the Riverfront Master Plan, the Housing Needs Assessment, all the brownfields cleanup funds, the comp plan, there's a lot of exciting work going on that's going to contribute to a beautiful Caribou,
Yeah.
even more beautiful than it already is. I guess one other thing I would add is I've been letting committees know this very piece by piece as I talk to them, but keeping a commercial database of properties in town, I've been tracking that. So if we get a business that might want to come in, I can say, yep, you have these properties available. I've made a map that can be put on the website. I'm still doing the fine tweaks of it, but I have the map made. So you can see the zoning, what might be allowed, what the former use was, the square footage, the link to the real estate listing with pictures. There might be some landlords who don't want their contact info, and we can kind of be used as sort of a third party. Hey, we might think this is a good use for you. Do you want us to put them in touch with you? Or people might say, yeah, throw my number on the parcel viewer, have people call me. That is one other update for the board.
Good. It's a good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Eric? Seeing none, we'll move to item 7, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would make that motion.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second.
Moving to second to adjourn. Roll call votes. Start with Steve.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. David?
If I vote no, does that mean we can't end the meeting? 'Cause you
You'll
need-
be in the minority, so.
It's
Yes.
World Kindness Day, Dave. Come on.
Yes.
The motion has passed. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
Kindness Day. I like that.
I was gonna say it on camera, but to Dave's point about, where are these places with the dog hoarders and the people hoarders and all that?